Hello everyone, welcome back to Simply Legal. My name is Terry Kahuma, the usual host on this channel, and today we are having a very special guest. He has appeared on this channel before. Many of you know him as Grandpa, who is Mr. Andrew Mwenda. He's
the old man of the clan, that you can see,
and
the grandfather of the whole country.
Well, without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Andrew Mwenda, the old man of the clan, who is going to give us his well of political, social, and worldly knowledge about the current issue we're going to discuss about, which is the different sanctions that have been put on different individuals in our country. So, without further ado.
First of all, I don't want to discuss the effect on the individuals concerned, that she cannot own a bank account, she may not have property, like the speaker in London, if she has properties there, that they'll be frozen. I think that is insignificant to the debate. Perhaps what exactly is Britain communicating to Uganda?
Yes.
Because I don't think the Speaker of Parliament has been sanctioned by the British government on the basis of the reasons the British government gave. They said it's because she stole money meant for the poor and vulnerable. I think that is an excuse by the British government. It's an important excuse for the British government, if the British government, in the sense that it places you at a higher moral pedestal compared to the government of Uganda. Demonstrates that the inability of government of Uganda to hold these people to account means that the government of Uganda does not serve the people of Uganda, and therefore the British government is reflected in the light as one which is more interested in the welfare of Ugandans than our elected representatives. Please, Uganda should note this. The reason why Western countries do that is to win the hearts and minds of unthinking Africans, which then justifies their interventions in the political affairs of our countries. But Western countries do not interfere in our affairs in order to promote our interest. It is to promote their interest. Oftentimes, not always, the interest may be at odds with the interests of our citizens. So we must always guard our sovereignty, because we don't want to confer legitimacy on external actors whose interests are not necessarily our interests and may not always be congruent or consistent with our interests. That's what the British government is doing. The reason she was sanctioned is because of her stance on the Anti-homosexuality Act.
Oh.
Yes. The Western embassies in Kampala, the Americans, the British, the French, everyone, they have been accusing her of being the biggest driver of the Anti-homosexuality Act. And I know they are right. Remember that I'm one of the petitioners against the Anti-homosexuality Act. While I believe that we as Ugandans should struggle politically, legally, and even at the level of society and the family to have this law overturned, because it is an expression of our deeply held cultural and religious bigotry. And I feel embarrassed that this country passed that law. I don't believe that Western countries should interfere, at least not openly, in our internal cultural debate over whether we should allow homosexuality or not. Because, you see, Ugandans are suspicious that Western countries want to enforce or impose their cultural practices on us. So when the British, the French, the Germans, and others come strongly in defense of the homosexual rights, Ugandans feel like this is an external imposition. Yet for us, especially like me, who is involved in activism for gay rights, I believe that this is an internal cultural debate. And it should reflect internal disagreement on what our deeply held cultural values, and I don't consider it a value. I consider it a bigotry. Homophobia is a bigotry that every Ugandan who is enlightened should fight. So, but their interference makes my work and people like me difficult. Because then Ugandans are saying, but you, Mwenda, you are working for these Muzungus, they are ones paying you. The other day, a kid came to see me, a 20-year-old kid. He said, I've been reading your articles. I had always thought that you have been paid money by Western countries to argue homosexuality. But when I have read a lot of your articles over time, I realized that this is really a deeply held conviction. So for so long, it took this boy, 20 years old, months of reading, tons and tons of my articles, watching, listening to me on radio, watching me on TV, going on YouTube, saying what I've said over 10 years, over 15 years, over 20 years, for him to realize that this is something I believe in, not because I've been paid. So Muzungu, I beg you, just keep out of our debate. they can make a contribution actually. If they want to make a productive contribution to this debate, it's important they conduct it quietly. They can call the president, go visit him, the Speaker of Parliament, different members of Parliament, different Ugandan elites, church leaders, and have a private conversation with them on what they feel. Because I must also give them credit, the Western countries, in the sense that I've watched the debate in the British House of Lords. I've watched the debate. Yes. Speaker after speaker stood up people, they have constituencies at home, human rights organizations, gay rights organizations, ordinary human beings, journalists and others, who, because of their own cultural development, realize that being attracted to a person with the same gender is not a problem. It's a variant of different human sexualities, right? So this is not a problem. Just like Ugandans felt women, or previously human beings felt that women should not be bishops, women should not be doctors, women should only be at home cooking and knitting clothes, right?
Yes.
And now someone comes and says, no, women can be presidents, they can be CEOs of companies. Initially, it looked to be something, an affront to culture. Women could not wear trousers, they could not wear miniskirts, they could not wear shorts, they could not, there's so many restrictions on them. So slowly there has been a cultural evolution where women's rights have been promoted and now consolidated. Equally, we want to see gay rights promoted and consolidated. But in a cultural debate like this, you don't need to use your power because you are rich and powerful, that you should bully, blackmail, and intimidate. That's what is happening. So the Western countries are under pressure from domestic constituencies. So when we see them acting like that, it's not because they're even ill-intentioned. They have also to respond to their domestic constituencies. So members of parliament, members of the House of Lords are asking, what is our government doing? How can, it's like assuming under apartheid South Africa, they have passed laws to say that black people cannot vote, black people cannot go to school, black people should be slaves. I'm sure many people in the world will find it offensive to use race as a basis for discrimination against a particular community, right? Yes. So the way all African countries impose sanctions on South Africa for racism is the way Western countries feel something must be done to stop this kind of cultural bigotry. You get it? Yes. And I realize that Ugandans don't understand that. And especially Ugandan elites, if you want to know what is homosexuality, just do a Google search. Look at the greatest studies on psychology, on psychoanalysis and psychotherapy and psychiatry. You will find that all these studies by the late 60s and early 70s begin to realize that this is not a mental illness, it's not a mental disorder. It's just a variant in human sexual desire. Not so common, but it exists in every society. So, because that scientific conviction has penetrated the social consciousness of Western society, for them they think it has, then you should impose it here. And those who don't think so are also under pressure from their domestic constituencies. I understand all these embassies are under so much pressure from the home governments to do something. And trying to do something, this lady became a victim. So this is a statement of Uganda's, of Britain's sense of power over Uganda. Why don't Ugandans also pass a law sanctioning Britain for accepting gay rights?
That's what I was also thinking.
It is because we are poor and weak. Our voice cannot be heard. I even saw in the British House of Lords, I was really offended. They said the whole world is angry with Uganda. Which world? China is not. India is not. Indonesia is
Pakistan
not.
Is not.
Brazil is not. Pakistan, and those are countries with the largest populations. The whole of Western Europe is about 600 million people, plus America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand. They're about 1 billion. The world has a population of 8 billion. 7 billion are not angry with Uganda. Only 1 billion are. How can you 1 billion say that the world? So all that kind of arrogance is what really, really irritates me.
And it's like they're trying to strong arm the speaker by saying that we are aware that you have properties in UK, we're aware that you have houses, property,
yes.
You're educating your children there, so therefore you can no longer access your wealth there.
Good enough, they don't sanction the children. They didn't sanction his kids. And
you're serious?
Yes. His kids and wife cannot go to the UK, cannot do this. The sanctions covered even his family, which is absurd. And of course, for Kale Kaihura, the sanctions were on spurious allegations. The British government has been involved in human rights abuses in Iraq, in Yemen, across the whole world. Not to mention genocides they committed historically in South Africa, in Kenya here, in Zimbabwe, in Uganda. You are in Munyoro, are you not?
Yes.
The British committed genocide in Munyoro. Munyoro had a population of about 2 million people. They reduced them to about 300,000.
Oh my.
You don't know that?
I
You should
do.
read a book by called Jorgensen. He wrote a book called The Modern History of Uganda. You will see the populations of Baganda, Banyoro,
Batoro.
Yes, but the Banyoro were the most massacred human beings. The population was shrunk. And
Even up to now, we have very few Banyoro.
you have very few. And yet Bunyoro was the largest empire in the whole of the Intercaspian region. Buganda was just a small little piece of land which they come and expand. Anyway, not going there, let's come back to this issue. The issue is me, I of course have issues with our speaker. She comes from a very unsophisticated background. She's not well read, she's not worldly. So she has this homophobia and she wants to get Ugandan homosexuals jailed. I don't understand in my mind why, if you, Terry Kahuma, met Derek Muhumuza, you went in the privacy of your bedroom and had sex. That should be a business, really, of the government of Uganda. How you have sex is really a private matter. Even when I went to Constitutional Court, I was surprised that the judges there, in their judgment, somewhere they even were mentioning how people have sex. They said anal penetration causes unhealth problems. Okay, heterosexual sex has caused widespread HIV across the whole of Uganda. Did we ban heterosexual sex? There has been gonorrhea. Gonorrhea and syphilis. So they made arguments that were so spurious. Actually, I was so embarrassed on behalf of these judges because all of them, without exception, are great legal minds. They are great scholars in jurisprudence. But they made arguments there that they said, did they read before they came to court?
I remember seeing your tweet when...
Yes, because somewhere they even said that it is to protect our children from molestation and abuse. But the Uganda police force annual crime report of 2002 showed there were 13,000 defilements, adults sleeping with minors, 13,000. Of those, 12,700 were heterosexual men raping little girls of 3 months, 2 years. Only 300 cases were of homosexuals. Essentially, 2.3%. 97.7% were heterosexuals. Should we ban heterosexuality because of child molestation? I could not believe that our own judges at the Court of Appeals, Constitutional Court of Uganda, could make such pedestrian statements in a long dissertation of arguments they were making. Somewhere they even said that there is recruitment of young Ugandans into homosexuality, as if homosexuality is a cult where you recruit people. Then I asked myself, okay, Uganda government has a whole security apparatus, including UPDF, CMI, ISO, ESO, police, and police has has crime intelligence, has criminal investigations, has practically every arm and leg of Uganda. Then we have DSOs, RISOs, and village security officers. We have teachers and headmasters and head prefects across all schools. In the last 15 years, they have been making this claim of recruitment. They have not produced one victim of recruitment and one recruiter. 15 years? Even President Museveni told me that they are recruiting in schools. I said, Mr. President, you have a whole infrastructure of the state. The schools have a whole infrastructure of administration. How can you keep repeating a rumor that there is recruitment and you can't produce a victim
or evidence
and one victim? Ugandans bring me one victim who was recruited. If there was a man called Andrew Mwenda, there is a boy in school of 12 years, Andrew molests him, you cannot say that's recruitment, that's child abuse. Mwenda should be thrown in jail for life if you want, for child abuse. That I understand. But you cannot say that is recruitment because the same man, Andrew Mwenda, may sleep with also a girl of 12 years. What do you say about that? I don't see any difference between Mwenda molesting a boy of 12 or a girl of 12. It's the same thing.
It's all defilement.
It's all defilement. And the law is very clear on that. Any adult who sleeps with a minor has committed defilement, and then you can go and do whatever you want to do with them. I don't believe in a death sentence, but you can send them to prison for life. Yes. So the point here is that we're involved in a cultural war here, and I want the Western world to keep out of it. Their sanctions against our speaker don't help, because then Ugandans get the sense that this is because they want to impose something on us. Now, let me come. Now, so I've criticized my friends in the Western world. I have finished. I want to come to the issue of Uganda. I think that if I was President Yoweri Museveni and I am the speaker, even if I held my prejudices, I would say Uganda is not an island. Uganda lives in a world where a significant part of her exports sources of investment, sources of development finance, sources of tourists, sources of a lot of economic intercourse are from Western countries: Australia, New Zealand, the EU, Britain, the United States, and Canada. We have, since we became independent, we have had a law left by the British criminalizing homosexuality. Uganda has never convicted one person in 62 years, one person, for this, under this law. The head of the Constitutional Court and Court of Appeal, who is the Deputy Chief Justice, was DPP for 10 years. In those 10 years, he never prosecuted one person. One person, Terry, one. Why should we as a country alienate a very important constituency of the developed world through which we have economic intercourse in tourism, in investment, in development finance, and development assistance and economic investment? Why should we alienate them in trying to pass a law that we will not enforce? Because when Terry Kahuma and Derek Muhumuza are in the privacy of their bedroom, we are not there. Why should we pass such a law and annoy them? So you call parliamentarians and say, yes, you may feel deeply about this. Let us not create, this is not our problem. Let us not create a hue and cry and alienate people. Because Uganda has lost not less than $200 million in terms of conference tourism and other forms of tourism as a result of this law. Uganda has lost incalculable volumes of money from international development finance and international investments as a result of this law. So both tourists, whether conference tourism or non-conference tourism, wildlife tourism, business investments have gone up. Even our exporters are facing problems. We're exporting clothes from Uganda. People don't want to buy from a country, materials from a country that kills people for being who they are, for loving the way they want to love. So we would have said, okay, these are cultural prejudices, but we don't need a law. This is a matter of morality. We should leave it to the churches and our mosques and our families. Let them adjudicate it.
And actually, it's the same thing President Kagame said. They asked him that and he said, that's an issue of the churches.
Yes,
and
it's
religious
yes.
institutions.
So the government of Uganda wants to become a theocracy enforcing Christian values. I don't understand that. Okay, also enforcing tradition. I find it stupid. I find it unstrategic. And I am so disappointed that a man of great intellectual resourcefulness like Museveni, a man with a depth of analysis and breadth of perspective, a man with amplitude of comprehension, could have allowed this. I really can't understand, because you are inflicting a huge wound on your country over something from since they passed the law. Ask them. Have they arrested one person? Prosecuted one person? Convicted a recruit? Oh, so why did they pass it? In any case, every day we're on TV defending gay rights. They said, if you promote homosexuality, you have committed a crime. Me, every day, I violate that law. No one arrests me. Because the law, the way it's structured, is such that you are a lawyer. If I go and defend gay rights, am I not promoting homosexuality? If I say this is a normal sexual lifestyle, I'm promoting homosexuality. So I'm violating the law. They are not even arresting me. In fact, I've been desperate that they arrest me. I go to jail under this law, so that at least we know that the law is they're enforcing. Because they were saying that the problem is there is promotion. They are afraid of promotion. What do they mean by promotion? But when I go to TV, radio, or newspaper, and I argue that homosexuality is a normal sexual practice, perfectly normal, only that it is in a minority of people in a country, am I promoting it? Of course. The way, if you read the law, I'm promoting it. Okay, since I'm arguing its case every day, why are they not arresting me? So it shows that even the issue of promotion, they were not serious about it. So why inflict so much damage to your country in terms of trade, tourism, and investment, and development finance?
And now they're even sanctioned.
Of a law, and now you have sanctions and all this. Of a law, you are not even interested in enforcing. Okay, you may say we are whipping sentiments to win elections. Yes, there's so many, even if you didn't pass the law, some people would win elections. Elections will be conducted. So I think this is self-inflicted wound on the part of the government of Uganda. So while I'm critical of the Western world and the interference, I am even more depressed by my own country, my own parliament, my own president, and Ugandan elites, but most especially, I must say, religious leaders. I'm not a Muslim, and I don't believe in God. So, but I was raised in a Christian family, so I read my Bible very well. I attended the church. I studied, I got baptized, and I studied and got confirmed. I can say I'm a non-Christian Christian, or I'm a secular Christian. Jesus Christ would not agree with Uganda's bishops, reverends, and pastors. Jesus Christ would be ashamed and embarrassed Because Jesus Christ taught tolerance. Jesus Christ taught
Love
love,
one another.
patience, understanding, charity and accommodation. Right? When he found people about to stone a lady who had committed adultery, he said, let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. No one did. So those who are condemning homosexuals, if you haven't sinned, you condemn them also. In Matthew chapter 7 verse 1, Jesus Christ says, don't judge others so that you also not be judged. So he says judgment is reserved for God. Judgment of sin is for God. Let the homosexuals sin. God will judge them. It's not for you, Martin Semper, to condemn them here on earth. If you want to play a role, you see, you are a pastor like Martin Semper and these archbishops of Uganda and the cardinals. I feel like they are also abdicating a responsibility as shepherds. Because if I was them, I would want to invite all the homosexuals and preach to them so they can find salvation in the church. But they are going to the government of Uganda to ask the state, using its police, army, prisons and judiciary, those are the coercive and repressive instruments of the state, to enforce God's law. God cannot ask bishops to act for him. God is so powerful. If he needed to enforce anything here on earth, he would do so easily. But he has asked you as shepherds of the people to preach and help your flock to find redemption. It is not use the state to enforce the law. This is not the theocracy. So somewhere Jesus also says something else in Matthew chapter 7 again, not verse 1, but now this is verse 7. He says, don't try to remove a speck from your friend's eye when you have a log in your own. So these MPs, including the speaker, she's busy stealing public money, robbing the state, money meant for public health, money meant for this. People are dying in hospitals, people are can't get an education. She's stealing money. And she's been caught with her finger directly in the national pie. And then somehow she feels that she has the morality to denounce homosexuals. I think that if Andrew Mwenda went with Tereka home and they slept in the bedroom and had sex, it has zero damage to Uganda, but her theft has a bigger damage to this country.
But then she kept saying that she's not involved in these things. She doesn't
Which
have
things?
properties in UK.
But we don't know that. But what from the parliamentary exhibition, money was being wired from the Bank of Uganda, parliamentary account, directly to her, the account of her bodyguard, her driver, and her personal assistant. In Stanbic Bank, I have the bank statements. Oh. And then they would go and withdraw money in cash, 800 million, 900 million. You get it? When and how did the government of Uganda begin spending money like that? Can she account for that money? I think she is a big abuser of her power and therefore has no moral right to condemn homosexuals. Homosexuals have not stolen from Uganda. She has.
In Parliament last week, she said that she is not, she knows that the Western world is doing this because
I know. No.
She's saying that it's not because of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. That's what she claims.
No, that is the official reason they gave. The British gave an official reason saying they are sanctioning her because of her stealing money from vulnerable Ugandans. They did not define where. But that cannot be a reason. I think the British sanctioned her over her role in passing the Homosexuality Act and Anti-Homosexuality Act, and I think they are sending a signal to all members of Parliament of Uganda, all judges, that don't dare go against the rights of homosexuals. That's just a message to Uganda. Because we will go after you individually. This is blackmail, this is intimidation. And I think I beg you, British people and Europeans and Americans, please don't do that. Me, I will fight for gay rights in Uganda, but I don't want support from the British. I welcome support that is reasonable, but not blackmail, intimidation.
Strong arming.
Yes, these coercive tools they are using, I disagree with them. First of all, I think that they should respect our sovereignty, that is one. And I also think that if they want to make a contribution to gay rights in Uganda, they can do so through quiet diplomacy. They can have conversations with the president, off the record, with the parliament, with elsewhere. So that even though I understand the pressures they are facing at home, I still insist they should withstand those pressures and leave this country to evolve in its own way. They are not the leaders of the world to dictate how we should govern our affairs. That's our matter. Me, I'm willing to die for gay rights. I don't mind going to jail. Right now, I want to break the law. Gays, I support you. Please continue your lifestyle. Government of Uganda and the parliament are wrong on you. So I don't mind going to jail. I don't even mind being hanged. If they say there is a death sentence, they don't need to take me to jail. I'll drive my car to Constitutional Square, park it, stand, on the whatever. If they want me to tie myself on the wall and they shoot me, I'll be the happiest man dying defending gay rights.
But we still need
Than to live acquiescing to this tyranny of Ugandan culture. I am against the tyranny of our customs and the despotism of our parliament in regard to this matter.
Now, Andrew, we've been talking about so many things, sanctions and homosexuality. People want to know, what is a sanction in your own way of international thinking?
So when you see sanctions are very specific, sometimes they mention what you not to do. So then, like right now they're saying, you, Anita Among, we are sanctioning you. If you have a bank account in Britain, it's frozen. So if you have $1 million there, £1 million, it's frozen, you never get it. Until such a time when you choose otherwise. Or you never get it until you die, and your successors will not get it. That is one. Two, we're also saying that you cannot transact. You cannot have financial transactions in the UK. You know, if you don't have a bank account, how do you transact? Three, you cannot travel to our country. So you'll never get
a UK visa.
A UK visa. You are banned from traveling there. You cannot own a property in our country. If you have a house, we will seize it and take it. So it may go into a breach public trust. And then they can also, you see, sanctions, I'm telling you are specific. They may also say all banks in the UK banks, wherever they are in the world, should never trade her. If she has an account, say with Standard Chartered Bank, which is a British bank, but it's registered in Uganda, she may not. May have to close her account there, because in Uganda they may not have the power to seize her money, but they may require that the Standard Bank closes her account. They call her, say, take all your money out of our bank.
Oh my God!
So that's what they do. And if it's the Americans, because they control SWIFT, she cannot send money using SWIFT. If the Americans sanctioned you, wow, and they take you off SWIFT, because international transactions are done through a switch called SWIFT. So if I'm sending money from my bank here, they ask for a SWIFT code. So it means she can't send money even to her children who are studying in the UK. But what she can do, she can ask you, tell her friend, and you send money to your account in London, and then
the kids
can access it from there. So the sanctions are real to her personal, but there are many ways to go about these sanctions. Yes.
But what's funny is that they are not sanctioning so much of Kitutu and Basali, rather people, the main advocates for the Anti-Homosexuality Act, or the people who are involved in the INC.
I should tell you, they have not been open, but if Basali and Kitutu and others in the Anti-Homosexuality Act applied for a visa to the US or to the UK, even maybe to Europe, you may find that they will not give it to you. They may not say so. You see, there are also silent sanctions. The Americans cancelled, you know, our speaker now cannot travel to America. The Americans have never announced anything, but they revoked all their visas. They revoked the visas of all ministers of Uganda, I think, except the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
You're serious?
Yes. All Ugandan ministers who are members of parliament can't travel to the United States.
Or United Kingdom?
I don't know about the United Kingdom. So the Americans don't want to advertise their reactions in order to limit
the public outcry.
You see, also they are conscious of what I'm saying, that if you are entering a Ugandan cultural debate and weakening our case, you are actually, in trying to do good for the gay rights community in Uganda, you're actually harming them, because you are hardening Ugandan positions. Ugandans now think Americans want to impose their culture on us, you see. So I think that's where the problem is. But Western countries should allow us to have this debate. This debate we're going to win. First of all, I should tell you, Terry, that unknown to Western countries and the Ugandans, by the way, I should tell you, I love this Anti-Homosexuality Act. Do you know why?
Why?
One, I know government of Uganda has no interest whatsoever in enforcing it, so no gay person is going to suffer. I saw in the British government they're saying people are going into hiding, businesses are closing. Which business is closing? Which person is going to hiding? The gay community, every day they come and see me here. They are very busy. They have their bars and clubs. They're enjoying themselves. And if they have any fear, it's fear of families, their father, their parents, their siblings. Every homosexual in Uganda have talked to, not these activists who benefit from Western countries giving them money. So those are careerists. You see, there are two types of homosexuals in Uganda. There's the homosexual activists financed by the Western world to promote gay rights. For them, gay activism is a career, not a cause. They earn money from it. Then there are people like me. For him, it's a cause. That is why I'm not bothered by any law. They can come and arrest me. Have you ever supported a cause? I don't mind dying for a cause. You get it? I don't mind Europeans sanctioning me, even killing me if they want, on something I really believe in. I've been looking for a cause I can die for. They can give it to me, or they can be sanctioned for. If I'm convinced about it, I don't mind. If I'm deeply convinced about something, I am resolute in it. I can't kill for a cause, but I can die for it so easily. Then I would die a fulfilled human being. I don't want to live Odugumengo Ojukwu, who led the rebellion to break Eastern Nigeria from the rest of Nigeria, in his prayer he said, and if we must die, let us die in the fatal effort of preserving our identity from absorption. Let our children eat gari and die of kwashako. Let us be pressed to the wall and topple into the grave. We are better dead than living without a shadow. I am better dead than living by just acquiescing to injustice. I don't want that. So I don't mind them sanctioning me if I'm defending something right. And I don't mind the government of Uganda killing me, jailing me for defending something I really believe in. You get it? So we have two types of activists: those who earn from it, they are careerists, and the genuine activists. The genuine people of Uganda that I know, all the gays I meet every single day, their biggest fear is their families finding out. Their fathers, their mothers, their sisters, their peers. So if you ask me, it is a cultural problem, therefore. The legal consequences are of no effect whatsoever, of very little effect for that matter, 1%. 99% is the social cultural pressure from families and stuff like that. Many young Ugandans get married early in order to protect themselves from the stigma that because you're not married, you are gay. You get it? So they enter very boring sex lives in enforced marriages, which are not interested in others that have lived a different life. That is the biggest problem Uganda is facing. And these people here don't understand it. So the activists here, whom they fund, claim that the state and its law. The state and its law is very good. Because once the state introduces the law in parliament, it generates public debate. When we get involved in public debate, people listen. People are curious. They learn. They begin changing. You cannot change Uganda's deeply held culture of bigotry except when you have an open debate. It's difficult to have an open debate unless you have a very barbaric law proposed before parliament. Then people are debating it on social media, they're debating it on radio, on television, and whatever. So since the last so many years we have been debating this over the last 15 years, since 2009 when they first introduced an Anti-homosexuality Act in Uganda, we have spent 15 years debating it. I'm telling you, in the next 30 years, Uganda will emerge in Africa as the most tolerant country in terms of homosexual rights. Why? Because the country that has had the longest, most vigorous debate on gay rights. It has been in the court, it has been in the media, it has been in the parliament, it's everywhere. And every day we speak about it, the cause is advanced. So the law is subjectively bad for the homosexuals, but objectively it promotes gay rights.
A lot of people are wondering, why is it that the Western world sanctions Africans when they don't do what the Western world wants? But when Saudi Arabia says we're introducing an Anti-homosexuality Act, or they are killing gays,
they depend on Saudi Arabia for oil. Saudi Arabia is an important player in global oil prices, and oil is such an important resource that if oil prices went out of control, many Western countries would face serious problems. Because how many cars do you have? In America, there are 845 cars for every 1,000 people. So there are more cars in America than adults. Everybody's on the road, destroying the environment. Yeah. Yes. So they are driving cars. So every voter has a car. So tell me, if you handle Saudi Arabia wrongly and it imposes on you an oil embargo, you have your pump prices going through the roof, and then you have imported inflation, and then you have your citizens angry. So Saudi Arabia is powerful. For us, we are poor and weak, and that's why and another thing, we are not that united, except of course on wrong causes. We are united around fighting our own citizens who are homosexuals. This is wrong. We need to unite against things that bring us development. If they sanction us for things that really make us strong and wealthy, I don't mind. But sanctioning us because we want to kill some little boys sleeping with each other, some girls sharing a bed, it's crazy.
But Among came out and said that it's because of the Iron Sheet saga made for Karamoja. She's
wrong. But Among, I don't consider her an intellectual anyway. She's an effective as a politician. I give her triple A rating. I actually think she's one of the greatest politicians Uganda has produced. But in terms of intellect, I consider her mediocre. I don't think she can have a very serious argument. She doesn't have breadth of perspective. She doesn't have amplitude of comprehension. She doesn't have any depth of analysis. She's just a demagogue or something like that. But she's an effective politician in that sense. She's effective because she knows how to manage politics in a poor country. Yes, but she's not an intellectual. This country also needs people like her, but it also needs people like you, Terry, people who think, young people, if I became president of this country people will not recognize it. Maybe my government will last a week. I'll get all these young Ugandans who have studied Harvard, Yale, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge, wherever they have gone, and they have worked at Microsoft, at Google, at Facebook, at Apple, at Amazon, at Rolls-Royce, at Goldman Sachs.
Or Ford.
I would bring them to run this country. I don't know whether those people, they can transform the economy, but whether they can connect with the ordinary masses. You see, this country, to manage it, you need, understand,
so many things.
Yes, you need to have deep penetration of the peasant mentality, and people can understand them, and people like Anita Among, she understands that. Really, in terms of politics, I consider her a million times superior to me. I may be so idealistic in my belief that this country needs people of high levels of intellect and competent to run the government, to run foreign affairs, to run our IT. For example, the future of the world is in 4 things I can tell you: artificial intelligence, robotics, synthetic biology, and quantum computing. Those are the 4 things that will define the world in the next 50 years. What is Uganda doing about it? So if you are involved in education in Uganda, you must be thinking of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. How do you promote that? Because that's where the future of the world is. How do we send our kids to China, India, USA to study and learn these things?
And bring back that knowledge.
Artificial intelligence, robotics, synthetic biology, and quantum computing. Those 4 will define this century here. So if you're preparing Uganda, you must be there. But we are sending people to study what? Chankwanzi, to study communism or something, or Marxism, whatever, I don't know. So I don't think that we're in the game of development. We are just talking about it, we're not in that game. And we need to get the best of the brightest of Uganda. So I think we need to create a double-layered system in Uganda. One layer of the best brains to handle public policy, engage the private sector, and think, how can Uganda position itself for the 21st century? And then we have a second layer of who are those Ugandans who can penetrate the peasant mentality in the villages, rally votes, and ensure that this technocratic system is able to secure grassroots support. You see, we need to unite those 2 things. Right now, we have surrendered everything to the vandals. You go to State House, it has the highest concentration of intellectual mediocrity in Uganda. That is your State House. You go to that cabinet, I don't know. Maybe they should. You go to the bureaucrats of Uganda. The best of Ugandans are not in government.
And it's such a hurtful thing. By the way.
Every day I travel abroad, I'm inundated with Ugandans. You know, I was in Tokyo. I found one of the guys who heads the self-driving vehicle divisions. One of the divisions of self-driving vehicles. He's a Ugandan. He heads the whole department there, Toyota headquarters. Yes, he was the East Asia person for Google. And he's into artificial intelligence, so Toyota bought him from there. You go to Microsoft in Seattle, you find one of the top guys is Ugandan. You go to Apple. I have a kid. This phone you see here, this hardware, he's the one who designs it.
A Ugandan?
A Ugandan from MIT. His brother is Kato and Kakuru. They're brilliant whenever they come here with them. You get it? I mean, you have Ugandans going abroad getting
everywhere.
Masters of distinction, PhDs and great things. This country needs to be plugged into the international system, into the most advanced technologies and things like that. You need to have people in State House, in Investment Authority, in Ministry of Finance, everywhere of this type.
And I see President Kagame is doing a good job with all of that because he's advancing Rwanda in astronomical rates. In fact, his biggest disadvantage, of course, is that there's not a large quantum number of Rwandans with these kinds of skills and expertise across the world compared to Uganda, because there are 13 million people, we are 47 million people. And in Rwanda, education started yesterday in 1994. Before then, that country was not producing anything. So they have had only 30 years to produce graduates. If you started P7, rather P1 in 1994, tell me, where are you now? Do you see? So they have not yet produced that large mass, and that is his biggest constraint, human capital. Kenya, of course, is 20 years ahead of Uganda. Uganda is 20 years ahead of Rwanda, you see. So in terms of human skill, human capital, Uganda is better than Rwanda. Rwanda is a very good engine, but with very weak wagons. Yeah. Kenya is a very good engine with excellent wagons, but the very good wagons, but the engine is not working. That Kenya, I'm telling you. And then Uganda is okay, moderately good engine, a moderately
good. The wagons are okay, but the engine to pull them is also not there. The engine is always picking chaff rather than. I want to ask you, I know so many Ugandans that can even list 1,000 who are working in the most sophisticated parts of the world, where they're working in Singapore, in the banks, in things like this. Even Ugandans who are working in the private sector here who understand the needs of the private sector. Because you see, to develop good policies that can transform a private sector is you need the interface between technocrats and the business community. So that intercourse is what creates knowledge for the state to develop policies that, how are you going to develop manufacturing when you're not talking to manufacturers to understand their needs?
That's what I was thinking also.
And manufacturers may want you to give them state subsidies endlessly. The people who can understand how you can design a subsidy regime that is not open-ended, that we are going to support you for the next 5-6 years, after which you stand on your own feet. We give you performance criteria, targets you must achieve every year. That's how Daewoo, Hyundai, Samsung, LG, and Kia in South Korea were created. How did South Korea industrialize between 1960 and 1990? I spent a whole year studying one country, South Korea's industrialization. I did a course at the London School of Economics called Economic Development in East Asia. So I spent a whole year, even in South Korea, I studied Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, all those countries of East Asia. You get it? The people have done PhDs on it. We need to be listening to these people and having a debate on them. Anyway, so that's the tragedy of Uganda.
One final question.
So we're being sanctioned. You know why? Because we will continue to be sanctioned if we remain poor and weak.
How do we amend relations now that the UK has sanctioned one of our biggest individuals in Uganda? How do we amend that? How do we move forward?
Ideally, exactly what I'm telling you. If Uganda was getting those Ugandans who are educated in international relations, understand the global strategy, global positioning, to sit and say, how do we have, first of all, we should never have passed the law anyway. But okay, now that we have passed it, how can we limit the damage we are creating? How do we engage the Europeans, the Americans, and other partners, and find a way of accommodation? They have pressure from their home countries to do something. We have pressure from our constituencies to do something. How do we reconcile these two? What are the rules? I don't want to reveal all the details. This country doesn't have people at Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that state as at anywhere, thinking about this. People are so locked in this narrow thinking that somehow Uganda is an island in the world, it can make a decision and anger Western countries and let's suffer the consequences. Well, we're suffering the consequences. Our country is heavily indebted. Next year we have $1.2 billion to pay in debt. Where are we going to get that money? In any cases, Muzungu, whatever my Christians may have of them, they give you long-term, low-interest loans. They give you a loan for 40 years, 10-year grace period at 1% interest rate. Okay. So you can borrow now and still not worsen your debt service problem. But now we are running around borrowing very expensive money at 7 to 10%, which are supposed to pay in 3 years. So our ability to service our loans that we have taken in the last so many months, the last 36 months or 40 months, is limited because you have high interest rates and the loan is maturing in 2, 3, 4 years. And you have borrowed it in dollars. You have to earn dollars from tourism. The tourism from the West, you have killed it. You have to earn it through investments, capital flow from the investments of the West. You have significantly reduced it. You have to earn it through trade, but you're reducing the trade because those people don't want to trade with us anymore. So how can you shoot yourself in the foot like that? It shows you that we are not thinking. There is no central brain trying to plan for this country. That is why stupid laws like that are passed. This country is in a disaster. It needs really a fresh start, I can tell you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And that fresh start, I should tell you, is not Bobi Wine and these messages. They, I must warn, are 10 times worse than Museveni because they have no clue whatsoever.
But Bobi Wine was busy applauding the UK government for the...
So how can a Ugandan, a person who plans to be Uganda, allow Britain to poke her ugly nose into our very domestic matters? Imagine, he's not in the court to argue for gay rights. I am, but I'm saying you guys keep away. Lack of strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is this. One, Europeans, yes, you have the right position, but your interference is dangerous for us. Yes, you Ugandans, you may have these cultural beliefs. They alienate us from partners in trade, in investment, in development finance, in tourism. This is very important for us. Bob Wayne cannot think even 2% of what I have said, and this is kindergarten economics, kindergarten international relations. He can't think like that. So if that man becomes your president, you are going to have a disaster. Either Britain runs Uganda or peasants from the village or these riffraffs you see in town here run the country.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Mwenda. Any final word to the viewers? They really love having you.
If I have sounded angry, it's simply because this country frustrates me and its politicians, both the government and opposition, they make me puke. Seriously.
Okay, our time is fast spent. Thank you so much for joining us on Simply Legal. We hope to host the Old Man of the Clan once again on different legal, social, economic, and worldly debates. And until next time, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and we hope to have you again, Old Man of the Clan.
Here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my grandson, for coming.